Well, this weekend Plarium is making us content creators work a bit extra over the weekend because on Monday 10th of February is coming to the game the fusion of Esme the Dancer, one of the newest champions, or the new champion that's going to be the fusion of February, and she doesn't come alone, she comes with a partner called Modo of the Peal, which is a nuker and is going to be pretty interesting in certain parts of the game. Let's have a look at them. Hi, Senda here and welcome to another raid video. In this case, we're on the test server. We're going to be having a look at both of the champions. This is going to be a double guide because I think it doesn't make much sense seeing one champion without the other. In this case, we're going to start with Esme. I think she's the one that has a bit more of juice to her kits, a bit more interesting, or can be a bit more interesting for most of other people's accounts. And we're going to see what is she capable of in your account, or in my account in this case, and we're going to translate it to your accounts. All in all, I think the general consensus is that she's not an amazing champion, that she's easy to skip fusion. However, I think she's not as bad as many people think. I mean, she's not the best fusion of the year. I think, for example, the Mad Hatter that we had in January, the Mad Hatter, I think she's a bit more of a complete champion, but they feel very similar roles, both of them. They both have certain use in Arena, but on their own they're not gonna do much on Arena, but they're pretty good option for champions for Hydra. However, Esme has the quirk that she, together with the partner, with Modo, they can definitely be part of a team on Arena and certainly do some stuff on Arena. In this case, let's start with Esme, the dancer. Here we have her. In terms of stats, she surprised me a bit. I mean, she has more speed than I expected. I was expecting something like 105, 106, something along those lines. 113 is pretty fast. Also pretty decent HP, pretty decent defense, and the rest of the stats pretty much they don't matter much for this kind of champion. Her kit is okay, it's not bad, but it's not mind-blowing. However, it has one thing in the passive that can be very useful and very powerful if we feed her in the right place and with the right champions. In this case, we have an A1, super basic, just places an increased attack on all allies for one turn. Pretty simple, pretty basic, doesn't do anything special. On the A2, attacks all enemies, 75% chance of place weaken and a block buffs, which these two are also pretty useful, mainly, for example, in Arena, they're okay, but in any kind of wave content, for example, Curse City, Doom Tower, Faction Wars, all these places that have several enemies, it works pretty good. Also very good with this second part of the skill that decreases the turn meter of all enemies by 20%. If Modo of the Peal is on the same team, steals 20% of each enemy's turn meter. Here, don't get fooled by other people. I mean, it's not Armand's. She just decreases it 20%, which is not that mind-blowing, or she needs another champion to steal the 20%. She doesn't completely deplete the enemy's turn meters, she doesn't fill her own turn meter all the way up, it's just decreasing a 20 and increasing a 20. It's not Armand's, there's nothing similar in that sense, other than a bit of turn meter manipulation, that's about it. But we can see this is useful, for example, against waves, but it's not useful against bosses because bosses are completely immune. So this second part applies uniquely to the Arena. On the A3, places an increased accuracy and an increased speed on all allies, 75% chance of removing all buffs from all the enemies. Again, bosses normally don't buff themselves. Waves, they can, but they're not mind-blowing. Increased accuracy is more of a early to mid-game kind of a skill, in case our champions can't go to all the way with the accuracy to the thresholds of 350, 400 accuracy that we need in certain dungeons, and increased speed is a valuable skill overall. However, the second part, like I said, 75% chance of removing all buffs from the enemies is pretty good, and if Modo is on the same team, instead of removing, she steals them, which this works really good on Arena and is gonna work against every kind of buff except protected buffs, and has a 50% chance to also steal Stone Skin. So not bad, not mind-blowing skill. And this is the passive, this is the one I mentioned that it has some a little quirk here that some people might have overlooked, and I think it's pretty interesting. And it says, when hit, has a 15% chance of randomly changing the attacker's critical to weak, normal, or strong hits. This is not mind-blowing. It's good that it kind of prevents the critical hit, so it prevents a lot of damage, and whether it changes it to weak means they cannot apply debuffs on us, normal or strong hits, it doesn't make too much of a difference in terms of damage. If Modo's on the same team, 30%. This is nice to have, but not necessary. This is the important part, the one I want to talk a bit more about, and if whenever this champion is hit, increases the turn meter of the ally with the highest attack. This is going to be really good for Hydra, especially if we have champions, especially like DPS, nukers. It's going to work amazingly with champions like Carnage, it's going to work really good with nukers like Odin, like Tranda, all these champions that hit really hard. They're not super fast in Hydra because probably they'll have like attack boots or something like that. And every time she gets hit, because it has one turn cooldown, it increases the turn meter of that certain nuker. The Hydras, if there's two attacking us, one after the other, and you know they hit AoE all the time, if both of them they hit her, this will increase 100% the turn meter of that nuker, which will definitely lead to a lot more damage, because that nuker is going to have a lot more turns, hence a lot more damage. So this is very interesting. It's not similar, but like I said, the Mad Hatter had something similar. In this case, every time he had the turn and he attacked with the A2, the ally with the highest critical damage will join on the attack. So it's something similar, it's kind of forcing another champion with more damage an extra attack into an enemy, but can be pretty interesting with a lot of Hydra team like we're gonna see. On top of that, on Aura, 19% in all battles is not bad, but it's not mind-blowing. Now, we've seen her at least what she's capable of, or where theoretically she could be a good fit. On Arena, if she's on her own, I think we can completely discard her, because on her own I don't see much point bringing her to Arena. There's other champions who do a lot more things than her and provide a lot more value. However, with Modo, we'll see them both on Arena, because I think that's kind of their place, and we're gonna see how does he hits, if he hits really hard, if he doesn't, and if they're a viable combo for Arena. But for the rest of the content, I mentioned mainly Hydra, or Waves in this case. She fits a role of a debuffer that is able to do AoE attacks and apply debuffs that are very useful for the team, on top of something extra. This something extra is a couple of buffs here, a debuff, the removal, the passive that will be increasing turn meter of our damage dealer, and this A1 with increased attack, which is not bad, but like I said, is nice to have, but it's nothing mind-blowing. So for Hydra in this case, I mean, we can go with a lot of different sets from champions that fill a very similar role. For example, EOS 3 Dreamsong fills a very similar role. Also, she has some heals, has some turn meter, has also decreased speed and weaken, and we can easily, for example, fit her with one of these sets, one of these curse sets, because she doesn't bring Hex to the team. In this case, Esme doesn't bring Hex, so this or that could be a good addition of a set. Another good addition of a set could be, for example, something like, I think something like this, like Venus. 9-piece Feral, again, it gives accuracy, speed, all of this is pretty useful on her. Allies deal more damage per each debuff placed by the wearer, and she's going to be placing quite a lot on that A2. However, I think the one that's going to bring the most value of all of them, not just because of the stats, but also because ally protection, protected buffs are kind of more important. On top of this extra percent, we're going to be doing like 10% more damage per buff placed, and she's able to apply 3, one on the A1 and 2 more here. So this is 3 buffs against 2 debuffs. So I thought it made more sense going with the 9-priest protection. With the 9-priest protection, what we're going to be looking for is pretty simple. Speed as fast as possible to apply these debuffs as much as possible, to reset the cooldown of the passive as fast as possible, and also certain sustain, certain HP, defense, resistance. I think in this case I didn't have the perfect pieces. I think the banner, for example, is a resistance banner, is not the interesting one, but it was all for the sake of fitting it all together, making a 9-piece, and this is, I think, the most optimal probably for her. In terms of relics, any relic that will contribute to either not heals but like turn meter manipulation, for example, where this small damage, not this one. This could be useful where it receives 2% less damage if under any debuffs, can be helpful. This increases the defense, can be helpful. Golden Elixir can be helpful. So there's no one that I see that is like super game changer for her. That's why I didn't put her any. In terms of blessings, I think Cruelty is the one to go for. I have only 1 star. I mean, let me know in the comments, because I've seen other content creators, when they do the guides for the champions, in the test server, Plarium gives us the 5 stars. I mean, I have the 5 stars for her. But I don't know if you prefer seeing all the champion guides, all as maxed out as possible, with 5 stars, 6 stars, everything. Or if you want to see a perspective a bit more normal, of a champion with only like 1 star or without any stars. In the case with Modo, I put the 5 stars because we're only interested in seeing what kind of damage he is able to make. But with other champions, like I said, let me know in the comments if you want to see as maxed out as possible or just a realistic scenario. Because we indeed have all the 5 stars, so we could see her a bit more, shining a bit more. The blessing, like I mentioned, cruelty, I think is the way to go. All kind of AoE support champions, cruelty is the one to go. And in terms of masteries, pretty simple. Dungeon basic type with increase of the debuffs, with increase of the buff to the allies, and extra damage with the War Masters. Pretty simple support champion PvE type of masteries. So let's try her on Hydra. Let's see what do we have here. For example, CMTG Jedi hasn't tried it with her, but for example, Hellheadis did, and we can see like 5 stars, like I was mentioning. There's like 3 DPS here, Reviver, ally attack, and in this case Esme, she fits pretty good this role that she didn't have in the team with the decrease, with the block buffs, with the giving attack. I'm not sure who's she giving in this case, turn meter, if to Yasu or to Teox, but that will be a bit the idea. She's not for everyone, but I think she can fit a very good role in certain teams. I've prepared this team. I mean, it's not my nightmare team, but I do use in my account. I think I don't have her here. I have the Mad Hatter, and I'm not sure if I use Carnage. I use a Kritzy, I think. But I wanted to see her here because we have one clear AoE attack nuker, which is this one. HP burn, defense base, but I want to see how much turn meter is he going to be giving Carnage. He's able to hit really hard, and on top of that, he's also going to be able to heal himself on day 1. So we're not going to go all the way around, we're going to see the whole amount of the whole final amount of the Hydra, but just to have an idea of how does she work. And I think it started, no. So I wanted Chris to start with the provoke on this head, otherwise it's going to be pretty annoying to deal with. There you go. And now we're going to be, now Marius is hitting. We kind of need to wait for the enemies to attack us first because we need to place the decreased defense from Krisk, which we're not going to see there yet. But Carnage, I mean, Carnage is amazing in this kind of content just because he's going to be getting a lot of extra plus 50% turn meter. Also, he's going to be counter-attacking a lot, very often, and we're going to be able to see, for example, you see the Hydra hit Esme, Carnage got an extra turn, does the extra turn, and he's going to be hitting A1 really hard, healing himself, and it can be a pretty fun try. I'm going to leave them for a bit, not until the end, but we're going to be... I just want to see a couple of how do they work together. So I'm going to let them here for a while. I'm not going to go all the way till the end. I'm not interested in seeing how much damage is this setup able to do because I'm not gonna have it on my account, but just to see how good or bad this team fits, and if how good or bad this team is, and how well Esme fits in this kind of team. For example, you can see here Carnage again is doing a lot of attacks on the A1. Could be him, it could be whatever damage dealer you might have that can fit in this kind of slot. That passive from Esme I think is a very, very interesting one. Like I said, I'm gonna leave them here fighting for a while and I'll come back in a bit. So we're back almost like 10 minutes later, 10 minutes in the fight. As we can see, 75 turns, 110 million plus. Conclusion so far of what I've seen. I mean, it's not going to fit all the teams. It's going to depend a lot what kind of DPS you use, what kind of damage dealer do you use for Hydra. If you use an attack-based champion, I think she fits really well. If you also need a champion that's going to be able to apply the block buffs and the weaken. In this setup, for example, I'm missing a bit more of decreased defense to increase even more the damage on Carnage, which doesn't happen all the time, but like we can see, he counterattacks all the time and a lot, either because of his passive, either because of Esme's passive also that gets triggered. But all in all, I'm pretty happy with this setup. I don't think I will change her because I think on this slot I'm using the Mad Hatter, and the Mad Hatter is able to provide more heals, is able to provide more things that these ones don't. But like I said, I think it's a pretty interesting champion. Pretty sure this setup could do easily 300, 400 plus millions, but right now Esme is not a champion that I need. I don't need her for the arena, and I don't need her for the Hydra. But we can see that she's a pretty good. She can get a lot of job done in the right setup. So I'm gonna stop this key here just because I don't want to go all the way, because I know more or less that it's gonna be around a 300 plus, 400 plus, depending on which damage dealer or attack based damage dealer do you use for the Hydra. But we have one more place to see it, and for that we need to bring on the partner, which is Modo, which is pretty easy to explain. I'm just gonna bring it up here and show you what's the gear I have on him and why, and how is his damage and what's he useful for. In this case, I picked one of my probably best DPS damage dealer sets, which is the one I use on Tranda for Hydra. We can see the stats here, 7.1 attack. She is very slow, 155 only, but has pretty good crit rate, crit damage, accuracy is not bad, but it's not going to be super game changer, and we're going to see why. But there's also a lot of different ways of gearing him. It's an attack based nuker, which means like everything that gives him attack, speed, crit rate, crit damage, and the extra accuracy, they're all pretty useful. For example, this could be one option on the lethal and cruel set. So we can, I don't know if I have this one pre-saved, but it could be one kind of set. Another one could be, I think I also had him with, where it is, I think I also had him with this, I think it was this one, something like that. Like the idea is a 9-piece like this, 9-piece merciless. It gives him 35% increased, ignore defense, which is really good. Chance to increase cooldown, attack, crit damage, speed. This one is faster than the other one, but it also loses a bit on crit rate, and also will lose a bit on attack. It depends a bit what kind of set. 9-piece of merciless will probably be the best one. Will probably be the way to go. Now here I had saved another one that is also it's also merciless. Let's stick with this one. I think I like this one more. The numbers are not going to be super crazy. It's not like 10k attack, 700 crit damage. It's more or less doable, but we can see him with we can see it with that. Like I said, I'm missing this amulet, but I don't have any other of this set that fits with the rest of the kit. But that would be the idea: 9-piece merciless or any set that ignores defense, since he's a damage dealer. We have this Malefic Talon, is fully maxed. Probably that's not going to be the case in your accounts just yet, but is to have an idea of another one kind of relic can be useful for him. We can see 20% chance to deal 10% more damage. So pretty interesting. Fully booked in terms of blessing. Crushing Red is the way to go. 5-star, 6-star Crushing Red is the way to go. And in terms of masteries, damage dealer pretty standard for arena mainly, but pretty standard damage dealer. Nothing interesting. In terms of the kit, there's two skills that are very interesting. Yeah, two skills that are very interesting. The A1, pretty boring. Attacks one enemy 2 times, decrease defense. Nothing special. This is the interesting one because this hits really hard. We're going to see him now in a damage test we're going to do in Dragon. This one hits pretty hard. 75% chance of placing a stun for 1 turn. Fully booked is 100% chance if he has enough accuracy, but if we put accuracy, it's going to be at the expense of not having enough stats in terms of damage, and places an extra hit on enemies under stun. If Esme the Dancer is on the same team, we'll always place an extra hit and ignore 20% of the enemy's defense. 20% plus 35% is 35%. So it's a total so far of 55%. And if this procs, is even more damage. If this is a 25%, yeah, 50% chance of ignoring a 25. So we can be ignoring a lot of defense on a double hitter, which the second hit is stronger than the first one. So this is going to be a hard hitter, and on top of that, stun. And this stun, and then the A3, which also is going to be quite hard to show it in the test server, basically because all the other people that are here are massive whales, and it's going to be hard to find a team where I can highlight and show this. We're going to try, which is basically attacks all enemies, will ignore shields, which is very good for the arena. Damage increases 75% while attacking enemies under stone skin. And if this attack removes one or more stone skin buff, grants this champion an extra turn. This is the one that's going to be quite hard to see because in high level arena, people not only have stone skin, but they also have the reaction accessories. These reaction accessories. This has very high chances that, okay, we're gonna destroy a big part of the stone skin, but if this procs, our damage is gonna be nothing. It's gonna be very, very minimal, which means we're not gonna be able to destroy a lot of stone skin. So in high level arena, I think bombs or even HP burn is the way to go and still the way to go to destroy stone skin. But we're gonna try if we see some teams that have stone skin and what kind of damage can we deal to them. And as a passive, what's interesting is if Esme is on the same team, this champion skill will ignore 50% of its enemy's resistance, which means we need less accuracy for that. And if Esme is on the same team, places an intercept on this champion at the start of their turn. This intercept is for him to not be polymorphed. The only way he'll be polymorphed is trying to apply a stun, but we're probably not going to apply a stun because this skill hits really, really hard. And we're going to see how hard it hits because we can bring him to the dragon, and I think we always use him on dragon 23 because it's void affinity. And we have this setup. Basically we just need increased attack, we need decreased defense and weaken, and we have the smack. Any other scenario doesn't make much sense, is not very realistic. So let's start with the A1 because we want to buff with increased attack, decreased defense, and we're gonna see this smack on the A2 to start with. We can see 234, 310, and that's a double hitter, and the second hit is even harder than the first one. So we're talking about 600k plus of damage on an A2. I mean, that on arena, no one can resist it. So it's a bit pointless trying to apply also stun because there's not going to be nothing left to apply the stun to. Let's see the A3. We're going to see, not in this one here, unfortunately, but we're going to be able to see on the A3. It's for 294, 250. It's very similar to the A2, but the A2 is a double hitter and the second hitter is harder. Let's try it in a harder difficulty. Let's see how damage stage 6. Let's go to stage 10, which is also void. Dragon stage 10. See how is this maximum damage that he can do with this A2 double hitter. Because so far the multipliers are pretty good. Not sure to clean waves and so on, but the multipliers are pretty good. Double hit, 275, 270 something, yeah, so around 500k to 600k something. So pretty good. I mean, the multipliers of the A2 are pretty powerful. The A1 is nothing mind-blowing. The A3 is very similar to the A2, but it just doesn't ignore any defense and is only one hit. So knowing that, let's bring them to the arena. Let's see what kind of damage these two can do. And let's see if we're going to see them around in some places. For example, let's see. Deadwood Jedi, I think can be pretty easy to show. Unless his Sif is faster than mine, which I don't think so, I hope not. But let's see what these two are able to do. We increase turn meter here, we block the enemy's skills. Here we could steal the turn meter, but we're going to be applying weaken and block buffs, and I don't want to apply these just yet. We could try to steal this perfect veil from this Yumeko, which we're not going to do. I don't know why we didn't do it. And they slept our Modo. The Sifi slept the Modo. Shit. Now let's put this here. Let's try to prevent them to... I'm not going to be in time to prevent them from taking a turn. Maybe if I get a bit of extra turn here, turn meter. Sifi tries to sleepy me again. Yumeko tries to hit me again. Nothing. Let's see with this soldier we can stop him. He hits me. Doesn't kill me. Okay, now the fun is going to start. We're going to hit them with the... I think the A2. I don't think they're gonna be able to resist it, but just to see what kind of damage. And like I said before, it's a double hitter. We're hitting twice. 140, 120. I mean, this damage times 2, 240 plus. I mean, no one can resist this in arena. That's why I meant, like, there's not much point on this A2 applying stun because no one is going to resist the hit. It's a double hitter. If he's with Esme, it's a double hitter so hard that there's no point. They're not going to resist it. Here, this guy, I think, is going to be faster than me. This doesn't make much sense. This Romsey full 6 stars, no thank you. Here we have Taras, but Taras, the problem is the fear, because he'll fear me and Warlord, so it's going to be quite hard to control. Unless instead of Warlord, I use something like this one, but she's naked because her set Esme has it. Let's see, let's find someone with stone skins. Who can have stone skin here? YST can have stone skin? We can try. See if they have stone skin. Because I want to show you what I meant about the reaction set. Yeah. I mean, there's a Lily2 here. This could be a bit dangerous. Let's block it. Now let's decrease turn meters. Perfect. Now we have this Harima with a weekend. We're gonna be able to see Modo, see if there you go, perfect. So we're going to be able to see if on this Lily2, which has a stone skin, how much of this stone skin HP we're going to be able to take, to remove. Problem is the affinity. She's weak affinity. And we're only going to be able to get an extra turn if we're able to destroy all this stone skin. But as we can see, here's the hit, is nothing. It's not much. Look at how much we removed. Like literally not even a 20% or 15%. That's the maximum we hit. I don't know if it was a weak hit or not, but this damage was very, very underwhelming and very, very average. So far, not impressed with that A3. The A2, yeah, that A2 is a really hard hitter skill. See if I can remove it, the stone skin with that and kill them. No. Because the A2 is like the massive smack. I mean, the A2 destroys everything. Now this Lily2 doesn't have stone skin anymore, and we're going to be able to smack him, which we're going to come and do it right now. Here is the intercept first, just in case I get any polymorph. This prevents it. And here's the A2, ignore resistance. It smashes both of them, and Lily2, she resists a bit, but not too much. We're able to take her down. So the A2, massive smack, really powerful hit, able to destroy pretty much anything we have ahead. The Stone Skin Destroyer, I don't see it. To be honest, I don't see it. I think champions with HP burn that are able to just burn that Stone Skin buff they're gonna work way better. And even though these two are quite fun, I mean, they're interesting, they have certain synergies, stealing buffs, stealing turn meter is fun. I don't know to what point we're gonna see them in arena. Just basically because the damage dealer champions on arena, they do more things than him. He just smacks hard, but we have a lot of these champions, and in order to smack hard he needs to have her in the same team, which kind of we're losing 2 slots for one champion to do the job that another champion on his own can do. So all in all, I mean, pretty interesting combo. I think her is mainly more interesting for PvE together, for PvP as well, but for that we're going to need to have them both, and both still not at the level as the current meta and the current champions we have dominating the arena for the last couple of months/years. That's all from me. I hope you liked the video. If there's anything that you would like to see a bit more, a bit better, let me know down there in the comments. Over here, recommended video like usual, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.